The story of Sodom and Gomorrah is a well-known biblical narrative found in the book of Genesis chapter 18 to 19. It tells the tale of two wicked cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, and their eventual destruction by God due to their extreme wickedness and sinfulness. Abraham and his nephew Lot lived in the region around these cities. Abraham was a faithful servant of God, and he had been promised by God that he would become the father of a great nation. Lot, on the other hand, had settled in Sodom, likely drawn by its wealth and prosperity. The story begins with God appearing to Abraham in the form of three angels. Abraham offers them hospitality, and during their visit, they reveal to him that they plan to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because of the great outcry against their sin. Abraham, concerned about his nephew Lot, pleads with the angels to spare the cities if there are even just 10 righteous people living there. The angels agree, and they set off towards Sodom to assess the situation. Upon their arrival in Sodom, Lot, recognizing the divine nature of the visitors, invites them to stay in his home. In the evening, the city's wicked inhabitants surround Lot's house, demanding that the angels be brought out to them, likely for immoral and perverse intentions. Lot, attempting to protect his guests, offers his own daughters instead, but the mob refuses. As the situation becomes more dangerous, the angels intervene and strike the mob with blindness. They then warn Lot and his family of the imminent destruction of the city and advise them to flee immediately to avoid sharing in its fate. The angels tell Lot that he and his family must escape the city without looking back and to not stop anywhere in the plain. Lot, his wife, and 2 daughters hastily leave the city, but Lot's wife, seemingly unable to resist temptation, looks back as they flee. As a result of her disobedience, she is turned into a pillar of salt. Meanwhile, God rains down fire and brimstone upon Sodom and Gomorrah, completely destroying them and their sinful inhabitants. The destruction is so complete that the once thriving cities are reduced to ashes, leaving behind a barren and desolate wasteland. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah serves as a warning about the consequences of wickedness and immorality. It emphasizes the importance of righteousness, hospitality, and obedience to God. Throughout history, the tale has been referenced as a symbol of divine punishment for the sins of a community, and it continues to be studied and discussed for its moral lessons. Lot's wife, the danger of looking back. As Lot and his family were fleeing the destruction of Sodom, the angels specifically instructed them not to look back, Genesis 19:17. However, against the divine command, Lot's wife turned her gaze back towards the city and was immediately turned into a pillar of salt, Genesis 19:26. Lesson: the story of Lot's wife warns us against being attached to sinful and worldly things from our past. It teaches the importance of obedience to God's commands and not allowing nostalgia or longing for past sins to hinder our spiritual progress. Jesus also referenced this event, saying, "Remember Lot's wife," as a warning about the need to let go of the old life when following God, Luke 17:32. Sodom and Gomorrah, extreme wickedness and immorality. The Bible describes the sinfulness of Sodom and Gomorrah as grievous, including acts of violence, sexual immorality, and disregard for the poor and needy, Ezekiel 16:49-50, Genesis 18:20. Lesson: the story of Sodom and Gomorrah serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of indulging in wickedness and immoral behavior. It emphasizes the importance of living according to God's principles and moral standards. As Proverbs 14:34 states, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. God's justice and mercy. Before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham interceded on behalf of the cities, asking God to spare them if there were even 10 righteous people found there, Genesis 18:23-32. God agreed, showing his willingness to extend mercy for the sake of the righteous. Lesson: the story highlights God's justice and mercy. It demonstrates that God is willing to forgive and spare the wicked if there is a remnant of righteousness among them. This underscores the significance of the righteous living in accordance with God's will and being a positive influence in their communities. Hospitality and righteousness. Abraham's hospitality towards the angels at the beginning of the story, Genesis 18:1-8, contrasts with the wickedness and inhospitality of the people of Sodom, Genesis 19:4-11. Lesson: hospitality is a virtue that is highly valued in the Bible. The story shows that the lack of hospitality and kindness towards strangers can lead to wickedness and judgment. In contrast, showing kindness and hospitality can lead to blessings and favor from God, Hebrews 13:2. In summary, the story of Lot's wife and the people of Sodom and Gomorrah presents several significant lessons, including the danger of looking back to sinful pasts, the consequences of extreme wickedness and immorality, God's justice and mercy, and the importance of hospitality and righteousness in our lives. These lessons serve as timeless reminders of the moral principles that guide us in our relationship with God and our interactions with others.